My name is Ben Rapp. I'm Chief Executive of Managed Networks, an IT provider to SMEs. I'm going to talk to you today about information security. Information security is a topic on everyone's lips at the moment. Most of us think about it in terms of hackers and viruses, and it's true that this is a real risk. The UK government recently admitted to an £800 million loss in one large company as the result of a directed hack. You probably also know that there's a risk of substantial fines if you release individuals' private data. This is getting ever more serious, and the fines will soon be up to 2% of turnover. That's before the cost of reputational damage and lost market share. You may not realise that information security also deals with disaster recovery, contingency planning, and business continuity. These are just as important. A recent survey showed that 43% of businesses that suffer a disaster never recover. So, what are the topics and how do we approach them? Information security is three-dimensional. There are three key areas: confidentiality, keeping your private data private; integrity, protecting data from damage; availability, making sure your systems keep working. These areas link together and depend on each other. In each area, we need to consider three things: threats, what might go wrong; exposure, how bad that would be for us and how likely it is; countermeasures, what we can do to reduce risk. As we do this, we look at three aspects: people, both inside and outside the organisation; technology, sometimes the problem, sometimes the solution; and physical, your security and circumstances, from door locks to flood risks. I can't begin to cover the whole topic in this brief talk, so I'll pick out some headlines. Thinking about confidentiality first. Identify your confidential data carefully. Don't be needlessly secretive. You need to focus your efforts on what's really valuable or risky. Your staff are your biggest risk, not hackers or viruses. Make sure they have clear policies and procedures to follow and have an ongoing training programme. Almost all confidentiality breaches, including some with huge fines, are the result of negligence, not deliberate malfeasance. Keep it simple. The more complex you make the rules, the bigger the opportunity for mistakes. Remember too that if your security makes it too hard for your staff to do their jobs, they'll find ways round the security. Don't try to use technology as a substitute for a solid policy and proper security awareness training. It won't work. Remember that most technology relies on being used properly. There's no value, for instance, in providing for encryption unless users know what to encrypt, when to encrypt it, and how to do it. Build your network in layers. Don't just depend on one technology to protect you. Where you can, keep confidential and non-confidential information physically separate. That way, access to one doesn't imply access to the other, and you can focus your defences where it matters. Don't forget about paper. Not all your confidential information is in computer files. Make sure sensitive documents have controlled circulation, provide secure storage, and make sure shredders are available and are used. Consider your physical security too. How is access to your offices controlled? What measures are in place to prevent theft of kit? And what about laptops and smartphones when you're out and about? Moving on to integrity, you need to think both about loss of, or damage to, information, and about accuracy. Inaccurate data can be more damaging than missing data. If it's missing, you know that you don't know. If it's there, you may not know that it's wrong. Once more, start with your staff. Have clear procedures for managing information. If you can avoid it, don't give individuals sole authority to make changes. Have version control procedures, even if it's as simple as saving frequently under a new name, including a date or version number. Wherever you can, implement data validation. The sooner you pick up on data errors, whether inadvertent or deliberate, the easier they are to fix. so try to check data as early in your update processes as you can. Where your technology allows, keep regular snapshots, at least of key files, so that you can revert to an earlier version if the current one is corrupted. This is separate from backups, by the way, which I'll talk about later. Keep your antivirus protections up to date, and make sure they're checking email and internet browsing as well as files. In addition to stealing your bank details, a lot of viruses and malware can damage your files, often as a result of bad design rather than evil intent. Think about moving important information into a proper document management system, like SharePoint for instance, rather than using files and folders. You'll get better control of security, better validation, and make it easier to ensure that everyone is looking at the latest version. Back up your data. This might sound obvious, but you'd be surprised how often we come across backups that miss out key files, or aren't taken off-site, or have never been tested to see if they can be restored. Availability is about keeping going. It's not just disaster recovery. After all, the idea is to avoid a disaster where you can. Business continuity planning, the formal discipline behind availability, is a topic in itself. So this is an overview of an overview. You can find a separate white paper on continuity on our website. The key to all of this is planning. Start by thinking in 3 stages. Absorb. How can you make your business resilient to damage? Adapt. How can you cope with reduced capability? Recover. How do you return to normal working? Think realistically about risks, how likely they are to happen, how much damage it would cause you if they did, what it would cost to prevent that outcome. If the cost of prevention is greater than the cost of the potential damage, you may be better off accepting the risk. As always, start with your staff. They're your most important asset, and also your most flexible resource. Make continuity planning part of their core activities, not an afterthought. Make sure your continuity plans are communicated, that your staff are trained in what to do, and that you test your plans. Where you can make your systems resilient, do so. It's cheaper to spend a little extra on additional hard drives at the outset than deal with recovering your data from backup. Spread your risk. Don't concentrate all of your data in one server. If you can, spread it across more than one physical location. Make sure you have effective remote access provisions. You're more likely to be denied access to your building than any other business interruption, whether it's the result of inclement weather, industrial action, or someone else's misfortune, for instance a fire in a nearby building. Don't keep your servers in the basement, they flood, and don't put them in the attic, roofs leak. If your building is in a high-risk location next to an oil depot or on a floodplain, then raise the priority of getting critical IT systems replicated off-site. I hope this brief talk has given you some new insights into information security. There's a lot to think about and a lot to do if you want to keep your business protected and secure. Fortunately, there's also a lot of help available from Managed Networks. You can find a number of white papers on our website. You can also call us or email us for a free consultation. Managed Networks offers better IT to SMEs, whether you want conventional support or cloud. Visit our website at managednetworks.co.uk to find out more about our world-class service.